Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Nikola Tesla. You know the name, probably from the car, right? But the source material we're looking at today paints a wildly different picture. It describes a man who is arguably the greatest inventor of the modern world, but who is also systematically erased from history. We're talking about a staggering contrast here. The actual blueprints of our modern technological lives, yeah, they were drawn by him, but his legacy, intentionally left in the shadows. So we're going to unpack exactly how that massive erasure actually happened. But to really wrap our heads around the sheer magnitude of this historical erasure, we kind of have to start at the very end. Picture this. It's January 7th, 1943, room 3327 of the New Yorker Hotel in Manhattan. The source describes a truly grim, just heartbreaking scene. A hotel maid opens the door to find Nikola Tesla dead. And he wasn't surrounded by admiring peers. He wasn't being celebrated for his unmatched genius. No, he was entirely alone and he was completely penniless. And right here is the absolute central tragedy that our source highlights. Think about this. This is the guy who invented the alternating current, or AC, electrical system. That's the exact same system powering literally every single building and city on Earth today. But it goes way beyond just the power grid. The text notes he envisioned things like remote control, radar, Wi-Fi, and get this, even the smartphone, a full 100 years before they actually existed. Yet the man who basically saw the 21st century in his mind's eye died completely broke in a hotel room. So how does something like that even happen? Well, let's explore exactly how that happened in Part 1, The Genius and the Rivalry. Now, what's really interesting about this is if we flash back to 1884, the source recounts a young Tesla arriving in New York City with, wait for it, exactly 4 cents in his pocket. 4 cents! He was actually hired on the spot by the famous Thomas Edison and immediately started working these grueling 18-hour days just to improve Edison's own systems. But after delivering absolutely incredible results, Tesla asked about a promised $50,000 bonus. And Edison? He just laughed. He literally looked at him and said, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." Wow. That brutal realization that there was never going to be any bonus sparked Tesla's immediate resignation, and it ignited this bitter winner-takes-all war between the two inventors. So this conflict quickly became known as the War of Currents. It's like a giant technological battlefield. On one side, you've got Edison's direct current, and on the other, Tesla's alternating current. According to the documents we're reviewing, Tesla's AC power was simply, well, technologically superior, especially when it came to long-distance power transmission. And the source claims that Edison, staring down the reality of this superior system threatening his entire empire, responded with what's basically one of the most vicious corporate smear campaigns in the history of science. And the details of this smear campaign presented in the text, they are dramatic and honestly really dark. To terrify the American public and prove that Tesla's AC power was this deadly menace, the source reports that Edison actually began publicly electrocuting animals. And this wasn't just a one-off thing. We're talking dogs, calves, and most notoriously, a circus elephant named Topsy. If that wasn't enough, the text notes Edison actively lobbied for Tesla's AC current to be the power source used in the newly invented electric chair. He did this specifically so that the concepts of violent electrocution and AC power would just become permanently linked in the public's mind. But despite all those relentless and, quite frankly, macabre attacks, the year 1893 marked a massive, undeniable victory for Tesla. That year, Tesla and his business backer George Westinghouse actually won the highly coveted contract for the World's Fair in Chicago. And guess what? The entire fair was lit up brilliantly by Tesla's AC system. It was this spectacular public success that firmly established AC power as the global standard, the exact same standard you and I use in our homes today. Yet the source points out a pretty glaring historical omission. Thomas Edison never publicly acknowledged Tesla's monumental contribution to the world. Not once. Let's move to and see how this builds in Part 2, the radio and stolen credit. Because that rivalry with Edison, that wasn't the only time Tesla's foundational work got totally overshadowed. The source provides a truly devastating timeline when it comes to the invention of the radio. So in 1895, Tesla was on the verge of a massive breakthrough. He was prepping to demonstrate the world's very first radio. But right before he could, his laboratory tragically burned to the ground, destroyed all his equipment, all his notes. Just gone. This massive setback basically opened a huge window for competitors. By 1901, an inventor named Guglielmo Marconi successfully transmitted a radio signal. And then, in 1909, Marconi is the one who gets awarded the Nobel Prize for the invention. But the text explicitly notes here that Marconi achieved this global fame using patents that Tesla heavily argued were based entirely on his own foundational work. So the crucial point is the deep, tragic irony in what the documents show finally happened in 1943. That year, the United States Supreme Court finally ruled in Tesla's favor. They officially invalidated Marconi's patents and legally recognized Nikola Tesla as the true inventor of the radio. But the timing is just heartbreaking. This huge legal vindication, this ultimate proof of his genius, it came exactly 6 months after Tesla died, alone, in that New Yorker hotel room. He literally never knew he had won the fight.
Which brings us to part 3, the fall of Tesla.
Now, Tesla's absolute most ambitious dream was this massive facility called Wardenclyffe Tower. It was designed to broadcast wireless power, literally providing free electricity to the entire world through the air. Incredible, right? However, that beautiful vision of free electricity is exactly what caused his downfall. His primary backer was the incredibly powerful banker J.P. Morgan, and he allegedly asked a really chilling question when he realized the financial implications. He said, "Where do we put the meter?" Once Morgan realized that free electricity broadcast through the air just couldn't be monetized, he abruptly pulled all of his funding. That single business decision dealt a fatal blow to the entire Wardenclyffe project.
And the physical aftermath of that withdrawn funding, it was swift and it was destructive. In 1917, the magnificent Wardenclyffe Tower, which was supposed to be the symbol of a world powered for free, was literally demolished and sold for scrap metal. The source tracks a super rapid, tragic decline for Tesla after this immense failure. Desperate, with zero funding, he actually started giving away his incredibly valuable patents. He got repeatedly swindled by unscrupulous investors who just took advantage of the fact that he cared way more about science than business. And without reliable backing, his grand projects just kind of evaporated.
The text paints this really melancholic, vivid picture of his final years. Tesla found himself constantly moving into cheaper and cheaper hotel rooms as his meager funds just completely depleted. By the end of his life, the man whose mind essentially electrified the entire globe was reduced to feeding pigeons in New York's Bryant Park. He walked every single day through a modern, bustling society that was entirely powered by his own AC system. Yet, he was largely unrecognized, just ignored by the very world he helped build. Let's transition to our final section. Part 4, the missing files.
Here, the source material pivots into this wild investigative mystery with a distinctly conspiratorial tone. It states that just 2 days after Tesla's death, and crucially, before his own family was even notified, government agents took swift action. Agents from the Office of Alien Property entered his hotel room and seized literally all of his belongings. Every single piece of paper, every scientific notebook, and all of his remaining equipment was immediately confiscated by the government.
Of course, this rapid seizure naturally leads to a massive question. What did the U.S. government actually keep? Well, according to the text, the FBI had already been secretly monitoring Tesla for years prior to his death. Now, the source does acknowledge that most of his mundane papers were eventually returned to his family. However, it strongly emphasizes that researchers analyzing the archives state that significant, potentially groundbreaking portions of his work appear to be missing to this very day. The text asserts that what the government actually found in that room and what it permanently kept has literally never been fully disclosed to the public.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer weight of what might have been lost in those files, especially when we look at his daily impact on us right now. The source draws a direct line from Tesla to the conveniences you and I totally take for granted every single day. Every time you flip on a light switch, you're relying on Tesla's AC principles. Every Wi-Fi connection you make, or every time you drop your phone on a modern wireless charger, you are utilizing technology that this visionary man envisioned all the way back in 1899. It's just wild to think about.
Which brings us to the source's ultimate sobering conclusion. The text argues that Nikola Tesla wasn't just casually forgotten by an ungrateful public or, lost to the simple passage of time. Rather, he was deliberately erased. The source asserts he was erased by powerful men who profited immensely from his ideas. Corporate titans who actively ensured that the world running so smoothly on his brilliant inventions never fully knew his name. It's such a fascinating and honestly troubling look at the politics of invention and how historical legacy is actually created.
If the man who essentially built the nervous system of the modern world could be pushed into the shadows so easily by financial interests, it forces us to end this explainer by asking one final provocative question. Who else has history tried to erase? What other hidden stories and forgotten geniuses are sitting right beneath the surface of the modern world we accept every single day? It really invites us to keep digging, keep learning, and absolutely keep questioning the history we are taught.